Hello and welcome to a joint webinar with Star USA Training and U.S. Commercial Service. Today is Tuesday, July 9th, and we're so excited to have Todd join us to share information on the various programs that USCS has available and the areas where they're currently active. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a link in the description to the website so you can access slides and any materials. We're recording the webinar and we'll send it out to you along with slides and any materials in the coming weeks. All participants are muted. I've collected a few questions from attendees before the webinar, but I'm sure you'll come up with some while you listen. The Q&A feature is available and we have chat, and there's some time set aside at the end to answer any questions you have. There is an NCBFAA credit available for continuing education credits for CES and CCS participants. The code will be provided at the end and in the email we send out with the recording. Most of you know about Star USA. We're a consulting, advice, training, and services firm in the field of international trade and compliance. We're based out of Northeast Ohio. For the past few decades, we've provided an array of services to importers, exporters, brokers, carriers, and forwarders of many different sizes and skills. My name's Jo Harper, and I'm a principal at Star USA. We're joined today by Todd Hiser from U.S. Commercial Services. If you're like me, this might not have been a government agency that you were familiar with initially, but they are a fantastic connection if you're wanting to sell your goods on a global market, if you have customers who want to, or if you want to build more international relationships. Todd and I are both freshly back from being out of the office, but we are all fired up to introduce you to a whole bunch of cool programs. Todd is the director of the Cleveland Center for USCS and works closely with the Ohio District Export Council. He's known in the industry as being a really great human to work with, and we are honored to have him with us today. Todd, you can take it away.
Thanks, Jo. I appreciate the kind words and the opportunity to speak in front of everyone. And before I begin, I would definitely reiterate that you should check out Star USA if you have any of the challenges that she has highlighted on this slide before I switch slides, because they're a great organization. And my name is Todd Hiser. I'm at the U.S. Commercial Service based in Northeast Ohio. I also supervise our offices in Toledo and Columbus, so we cover most of Northern Ohio. But we're part of the International Trade Administration and the U.S. Department of Commerce. So we're a federal agency, but one of the unique things about our agency is we are based locally. So I am here in Ohio. We also have offices in all 50 states. So, Jo, let me know ahead of time that many of you are not based in Ohio. We're more than happy to connect you with the local office somewhere near you. So what I'm going to do today, I'm assuming most of you know that exports matter, but I'm still going to go over some of the basic stats to kind of just remind everyone why exports matter to the U.S. economy and why they're important. And I say exports because our agency is focused on promoting U.S. exports to overseas markets, as well as foreign direct investment within the United States. We don't really work on the import side. That's our friends at Customs Border Patrol and other agencies that work on the import side. So I'm going to be focusing primarily on exports. But again, we do also do some foreign direct investment. If anybody have any questions in that area, I'm happy to answer those or connect you again with our local office. More than 70% of the world's purchasing power is outside the United States. And, competitors around the world, you hear a lot about China, but it's also India, it's Europe, it's all around the world, are increasing their global market share while the U.S. continues to underperform. So that's one of the primary reasons we're here, is to help small to mid-sized businesses grow that business and be competitive in the international arena. Just as kind of an example, you can see this is a little graphic of GDP of different countries around the world and what percentage of GDP are taken up or supported by exports. You can see a country like Germany, 47%, Korea, 42%, China, 20%, and there's the United States at 11%. So we certainly have a lot of opportunity for growth in that region. And only less than 5% of US small to mid-sized businesses actually export. Even though it's a large bit of our clients, there's still a lot of opportunity for small businesses to join the export game. Before I joined the commercial service about 15 years ago, I worked in the private sector at a small manufacturing company. And we were able to grow our exports to about 25% by just focusing on it. We used the commercial service a little bit, but that was really a big impact on our business. We were only a $6 million a year company, and we were able to add 25% in international sales by just going after it. So again, our mission is to grow U.S. exports and increase U.S. jobs. We have worldwide recognition where, a lot of times the U.S. government, we can open doors that no one else in the markets around the world can. And I know not everyone likes the U.S. government. I always joke, and not even in the United States, right? We're such a divided country right now. But it does really open doors in certain circumstances when you have folks at the U.S. embassies and consulates reaching out to try and make those connections. We do have experts in over 80 markets. This slide's a bit dated at 76 markets. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward, but we do have U.S. government staff in the embassies and consulates around the world that spend their primary role trying to find customers for U.S. exporters. The other thing I'm really proud of this agency is we're actually results driven. Again, you might not hear about it very often with a government agency, but we're very much about connecting U.S. businesses, but following it all the way through until that U.S. business finds a new customer and sells product, not just estimated sales somewhere down the road or things like that. It's really saying, okay, we can introduce you to a certain amount of, let's say, distributors. You're able to sign a distributor agreement. How can we help you grow those sales? So again, go all the way back to increase U.S. jobs. Our agency has helped facilitate over $170 billion in exports. That includes $54 billion in inward investment. But you can see it has a real world impact. And this is just the ones that we've been able to collect with feedback from folks at those U.S. businesses. We helped over 92,000 clients across the country, 85% of which were small and medium-sized businesses. So again, we're not necessarily helping I'll use some examples here of Northeast Ohio, like a Goodyear or an American Greetings. While we do help them, the vast majority of what we do is help those small businesses that don't have a big international department, maybe a medium-sized business that has a few people that do international, but they don't have a large internal ability to grow their exports and, all the things that go along with international business. U.S. exports equals more jobs. So since 2010, the U.S. Commercial Service has facilitated more than $467 billion in exports and has supported more than 2.6 million jobs. Just in fiscal year 2023, it was nearly 600 million American jobs that we could link directly to increases in international business and investment efforts. And again, as I mentioned, being results oriented, we can actually say that for every dollar appropriate of your tax money and my tax money that goes to the commercial service, we're able to return at least $360 return to the U.S. economy. When I say that, we actually do collect direct results from the businesses that we help, and only a small percentage report back to us of what their successes are. So I'm pretty confident that those numbers are actually pretty low. But there's not a lot of federal agencies out there in the country that can say, for every dollar allocated to that agency, they can return a 360 to 1 return on that investment. So again, exporting can be profitable for all businesses. I mean, as long as you have an export ready product, you have some infrastructure behind you, you have management support, and we'll talk a lot about that going forward as well. But we have a lot of our clients that are like my old business, being, $6 million, 20, 30 people selling around the world. Because it helps you grow your revenue. If you export, again, it's able to build on to what you're doing domestically. And companies that export grow faster and are less likely to go out of business because it really expands your demand curve. If the US economy is slowing down a little bit, maybe the economies in Europe are going well, or Africa, or Asia, or wherever. If your business is seasonal and it slows down in the winter, let's say here, well, it's summer in the Southern Hemisphere. Maybe your business can have an opportunity to sell your products or services in the Southern Hemisphere. So it really helps round out that demand curve. Again, I know some of you are not based in the state of Ohio, but I wanted to throw out just some basics here on how exporting helps grow more jobs in Ohio. In 2021, which is the latest data we have on this particular stat, over 194,000 Ohioans were employed to support exports. Over 16,000 companies in Ohio sell to customers all over the world. Again, that could be in Canada. It could be Mexico. It's funny when I talk to local businesses, oftentimes I'll ask if they export and they say no. And I said, well, do you sell to Canada? Well, yeah, of course we sell to Canada, being as close as we are. I'm like, well, that's an export. So again, 88% of Ohio's exporters are small or medium-sized businesses. So you have the Goodyears of the world, or down in the southern half of the state, we have like GE Aviation, some of the big companies who do pump out quite a bit of product. But a lot of the small and medium-sized businesses are exporting too. In 2023, last year, almost 56 billion in exports in goods were shipped out of Ohio. Some nice little pats on the back for us, but I think again, it's one of those things that we do build relationships with our clients. That's why we're based in these markets. And again, I'm happy to connect you with your local office. So if you're based in Texas or Oregon or Florida, we have offices there and all around the country that we can help grow your business. And you'll have a local contact. It's not a DC based organization, though while we have people in DC, we're a field based organization. So most of our staff and our employees are across the United States or around the world. So we do have somebody who can come out, visit your business, learn what you do, and really help you learn how to take your products and services overseas. Or if you're in Canada and Mexico, but you want to look at Europe or you want to look at Latin America or wherever, we have that expertise and ability to help you grow your business in those markets as well. So how do we do it? We have a variety of different options and things that we do. Again, with our global network and our US based staff, we do things like export counseling, how to help you, whether it's documentation requirements, import requirements, US government export controls and compliance, help you connect with trade financing options. And I'll talk a little bit about each of these a little more in detail here in a minute. We can help you gather some information, market intelligence. The thing that we do the best, though, is business matchmaking, connecting you with pre-screened potential partners. And I'll talk quite a bit about that. Those of you that may be interested in government bids or military bids overseas or things like that, we also have a division that does commercial diplomacy and advocacy. So if you're engaged in an infrastructure bid to build a power plant in Southeast Asia, something like that, we can involve the embassy to advocate on behalf of your company to do our best to help them select your business instead of, let's say, a European business or another Asian business. So we have that ability to engage the full staff, in some cases all the way up to the ambassador, to have them advocate on behalf of your business again. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So I talked a little bit about global presence. Again, our job is to help level the playing field for U.S. companies to participate in international trade. Again, we have 106 offices in the U.S. It's kind of hard to see all those blue dots because they're all kind of mushed together. But we do even have an office in Hawaii and Alaska and several all across the country. Like I said, several here in Ohio alone. But I think the more interesting thing is we have offices in 80 countries around the world. 3 or 4 in Mexico, 5, I think, in India, several in China, all across Latin America, Africa. And we also partner with the U.S. State Department in countries that we don't have offices. So we can reach out to just about any, I believe the stat is 90% of the world's GDP we have coverage in. And when I say coverage, I think the other unique thing about our organization is while we have U.S. citizens as what we call commercial officers that run the offices in those embassies and consulates around the world, we hire locally employed staff. If we have an aerospace specialist in the UK, which we do, they're a British citizen working for the US government to add to help US companies expand their aerospace facility. And that person works in the aerospace industry. So they know the contacts, they know how to make introductions to the right players in that market. The reason aerospace in the UK came up in my mind is we're getting ready to support the Farnborough Air Show, which is the largest air show in the world, coming up this in a week and a half. And we have an aerospace specialist in the UK who's helping set up meetings for Ohio companies and across the country, but also specialists coming in from Germany, Brussels, and a variety of other places to help US companies connect. Doesn't seem like it's as important in a place like the UK, but if you think about cultural differences, language differences, things like that, we have the same thing in Brazil, for example, where we hire native Brazilians. They know the economy, they know the culture, they know the language. So when they go out and say, I want to find new customers for ABC company in Northeast Ohio, they're doing it in Portuguese. They know, okay, this is an appropriate ask. This is not an appropriate ask. I know the aerospace clients in Brazil, for example, or the Medicare or medical device manufacturing companies, so that they can make those connections in their local language and able to make all those introductions. So the four kind of pillars that we do that I mentioned in the one slide, I'll go into a little bit further, but export counseling, again, we can help companies. If you're a new to export company and you don't know much about it, we can help you with everything from, again, what kind of documentation is required to export to India or South Africa or Thailand or wherever. What are the barriers to entry? What are their compliance issues? What do you need to know to be able to go into those markets? And a wide variety of different services that we can help you, even if it's like filling out a certificate of origin for the USMCA going into Canada, for example. We can help you make sure that you get the right resources so you can complete that. We also have what we call an e-commerce innovation lab, where we can help you modify your website to make sure that it's attractive in a foreign language or in a foreign market. Is it appropriate? Every culture has a little bit different versions of what they feel like is appropriate or not appropriate. We don't actually do the design work, but we have a resource where we can review your website and provide suggestions of a wide variety of different natures to make sure that, do you need to make modifications before you go online in Brazil? Do you need to register a domain in Chile? Do you need to, worry about the European data collection chart, regimes in Europe? All those type of things we can help you out with so you can be more successful in the international arena. Market intelligence. We can also help you learn about the market before you start approaching the market. So one of the things I'll make sure that hopefully you'll leave with is our country commercial guides are written by those specialists that I mentioned that are natives to their country. They're free to download on trade.gov. And it tells you everything about how to do business in over 125 countries. It's updated every year. And it goes into everything from, how do you shake hands with someone in China to things like these are the top markets for exporting to, I don't know, I'm running out of countries to mention Egypt. So we have a lot of that opportunity, and it's right in country commercial guides. It's in a PDF. You can print it out if you're an old school person like me and read it on a plane, or you can read it online on your tablet. But they're great, pretty much real time updates on a variety of different topics on doing business in a particular country. We also can offer customized market research. If you have specific questions about an overseas market, market trends and size, customary distribution and promotion products, like what's going on with key competitors, that sort of thing, we can do customized market research for you as well, based specifically on your company and what your product or service. I often say products, but we do help with service providers too. So we've helped architecture firms, we've helped all kinds of different service providers. So I say products a lot because Ohio is a big manufacturing base, but we do also help service companies. And even in some cases, we've worked with companies that are, franchises where, I don't know, like a Wendy's would want to open new Wendy's restaurants in a foreign market. We can help them do that type of thing as well. We also provide what we call an initial market check, which is a basic assessment of the market potential for your product or service in the target market. It's really useful because it also sometimes comes back and says no. So you might be reading things in the Wall Street Journal or your local paper, a variety of different international trade magazines, and you hear that, like, I don't know, everyone's going to South Africa. Okay, well, maybe it might be a good market for your product. If we do an initial market check, we can come back and say, you know what? There's too many regulatory issues. There's big tariffs on your particular product or whatever. You might want to look at a different market. Or we come back and say, oh, it's a great market. Yeah, we highly recommend you do one of our partner searches so that we can find you a good representation or whatever. But sometimes the answer no is good too, because you won't spend a lot of money then on exploring the South African market, going to a trade show, doing whatever, only to then later find out, oh, yeah, no, this isn't a great market for us. The other service we do under the market intelligence bullet point here is international company profile, which is a full background check on potential partners, customers, distributors, your overseas partners. Again, since we have local staff in the market that know the customs, know the culture, know the language, it's not just an internet search and a D&B report. Our staff visits the facility, calls the trade references again in their local language, calls the bank references, can check if they're registered with the local chambers of commerce or whatever, how we have to register with state of Ohio, things like that. And comes back to you with like normally an 8 to 10 page report after they've done those interviews, gathered all that information to really give you what you need to make a decision if you're going to partner with a particular distributor or customer. In some countries, when you sign a distributor agreement, it's really hard to break. So you really want to make sure that you partner with someone that you can count on, that's reliable, that knows the market. And that's some of the information we can get for you, even without you having to go to the country. I'm going to spend a little bit longer on the business matchmaking because I think that's really where we shine. But we do a variety of different ways with business matchmaking. But essentially what we do is we learn about your business. Myself and my team in Northeast Ohio, for example, can meet with you virtually, can come out and see your company. We have a basic, what we call a questionnaire, where you express what you do, why yours is the best in the market, but also more importantly is, do you have any experience in the market? And who's your ideal customer or distributor or whatever? And then what we do is we will send that over to one of our overseas offices, have another conversation with you and our overseas office at the same time. So you can ask questions, they can ask questions of you. And then they can decide, okay, we think we can find these people for you, or we can't for this reason or that reason. And again, it's great market intelligence before you even decide to go to a market. But assuming they say, yes, we think it's a great market for your product or service, we go over, they set up and they interview, could be dozens of potential distributors, customers, and come back to you with a pre-screened, pre-vetted list of 3 to 5 contacts that have already agreed to meet with you before you even get on the plane or before you get on the virtual call. So it's a warm lead that we've already pre-screened and vetted for you. And, again, we're all about trying to help you succeed. So we're going to do our best to make sure that all those companies are good based on your questionnaire, based on the conversation with you and how it goes. So then we have 2 options from there. We can do virtual introductions if you want to meet those folks via teleconference, Teams call, Zoom, whatever. But I think one of the best strategies is people still buy from people. I know we've all gotten used to this virtual environments and it's been working really well through the pandemic and now several years past. But people still like to shake hands like this graphic shows and get to know each other. So with our Gold Key service, we have those up to 5 pre-screened appointments set up for you before you get on the plane. You'll have all their background, all their information, so you can do all your research before you go. And then we'll have all the logistics set up for you. We'll have your meetings all within one day generally. Our staff member will go with you. So if there's any issues with transportation, whatever, any communication issues, and also help you get a readout of the meetings after you're done. We do have fees for some of these services, and I can describe any of these that may be interested to you. But for example, that Gold Key service is our primary service. If you went to a private sector provider of that, it would be thousands of dollars. But if you're a small business, that Gold Key service is only $950. And if any of you most of you are in states that probably have what they call the STEP grant, you can even get some of that money reimbursed. So to have 5 guaranteed meetings before I got on the plane when I was in the private sector, it's worth a heck of a lot more than $950. I used to go to trade shows, I'll show how old I am, going like in the yellow pages, all that kind of stuff to try and figure out how to get these things, sending random emails or faxes back when that was a thing. But to be able to have all these meetings set up before you even get on the plane is kind of crazy and very effective. We found in our collecting results, the people that do the Gold Key service have about a 60 to 70% success rate. And again, that's just the ones that have reported back to us. And one other thing I'll say on this is, again, we're not a revenue-based organization, so I'm not here to sell anyone the $950. Ours is all about you coming back to me after this whole process is over and say, hey, Todd, we met this great distributor. We signed them on. They just bought their first stocking order and they're moving forward and we're super excited. Thank you. That's what we're looking to do. If I can do that for free, that's awesome. If it's a service that we have to recoup some of our costs, that's awesome too. But we're all about trying to grow those sales so you can grow jobs in the US. We also do a wide variety of trade events. So I mentioned the Farnborough Air Show. We do a variety of overseas air shows where we try and connect US businesses with overseas buyers. Again, I say buyers, could be distributors, could be partners, whatever. We also work on inbound trade shows. So if you have a big industry trade show, like mine was in the packaging industry, so we had a show called Pack Expo in Chicago. Commercial service would normally bring 600 to 900 buyers to that trade show. And our mission would be run around and introduce them to as many US businesses as we can so that the people on the trade show floor can sell and export their products. We also do trade missions. I'm going to talk about one here in a minute. And we also have something called Discover Global Markets, where we again bring in some cases, mostly just our overseas commercial diplomats who can come in and meet with you and talk about their particular markets, but also gives you an opportunity to learn a lot of different things about different sectors and different industries and regions. So the big trade mission that we're promoting right now is what we call Trade Wins. And this year, our office and our region here in the Great Lakes are taking lead on bringing businesses across the United States. So it's a nationwide trade mission. It's not industry specific, so it can be any industry. But the meetings are going to start in Sao Paulo, Brazil in April. And then we have spin-off opportunities in Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Uruguay, and Brazil. So again, I mentioned the Gold Key service type thing. This is like the Gold Key on steroids. So we have a 2 or 3 day conference in Brazil where you get to meet with our overseas experts. They have a lot of great speakers. They have opportunities for you to network with other local businesses or US businesses, I should say, some local businesses as well. And then we have individual matchmaking stops where we'll basically be delivering Gold Key services, again, on steroids, if you wanted to go to Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Uruguay, or stay there in Brazil. For those of you that may be in the service industry, if you want to get in front of potentially 100 to 150 businesses that are going to go on this mission, there are sponsorship opportunities available. More than happy to talk to you about that. But that is the goal right now. We just did one last year in Europe, and we had over 150 businesses participate in the trade forum and then do some of the matchmaking stops across the region in Europe. It was a very successful trade mission. So I also mentioned commercial diplomacy. Again, we have an advocacy center where if you are going on a foreign project or procurement opportunity that involves foreign government decision makers, for example. In some countries around the world, they're government-owned corporations, or maybe it's again, you want to meet with the Ministry of Education or whatever sector your products or services may be in. We have a group that can help advocate for your business, again, involving the overseas consulate or embassy or U.S. government officials. Sometimes if it's a big enough contract, they may be coming to the United States. We can have folks in D.C. or other places also advocate for your business to be selected versus someone else around the world. We also can help with any trade barriers that you think may be unfair. Doesn't necessarily mean we can fix it on the spot, but it's something we can certainly raise to the diplomatic levels. You may hear about some of these scenarios where the Secretary of Commerce or the U.S. Trade Representative or whoever are meeting with their counterparts in overseas. Well, some of the things they talk about are things brought up by real U.S. businesses like yours. So if you have an opportunity or you have a situation where you think something's not fair and you want to raise it to that level, you can run it through our local office and we'll make sure it gets to the right spot. Same thing with a trade dispute. Back in the day, 10, 15, 20 years ago, sometimes things get stuck in customs and people are looking for a little extra handout to get it expedited through there. Something, if that happens, give me a call and I can reach out to our embassy. And sometimes on the embassy calls the foreign customs official and say, hey, we're aware of this situation. Why is this shipment not going through? Miraculously could be released the next day. Or the other thing is you can also get a direct answer that, okay, it's being held, but here's the reason. Again, if we have someone, let's say it's Mexico, from the embassy in Mexico calls up the customs official, it may be a legitimate hold, but you maybe don't have anybody who speaks Spanish in your firm. Sometimes we can get you a real answer like, oh, this is what they're waiting on. They need this piece of paper or this stamp or whatever. We can at least get you an answer to rectify some of those types of trade disputes. Or if they say it's the wrong HS code or whatever, and you're convinced it's the right HS code or wrong tariff level, whatever, you have an opportunity to engage the leverage of the embassies and consulates right in your own town by reaching out to one of our local offices. We also do trainings in each of our offices around the country. We do all kinds of different trainings. This is an example of one that we're going to be putting on in September. We're going to have an export compliance roadshow where we're going to talk about everything from Bureau of Industry and Security, Customs and Border Protection, census like AES filings, things like that, where the folks that are involved in your organization that are responsible for doing export compliance can come in and meet with experts who do it on a regular basis. We'll have both private and federal speakers. So again, we're anticipating having someone from BIS, someone from Customs and Border Protection, that sort of thing available so you can talk to them, but also hear their presentation on what's the latest in the export administration regulations or any of the other regulations that you may apply, how to apply for licenses, all that sort of thing, and how the U.S. government is involved and who to call and where to go. It's more than just commerce. We'll have a little bit on ITAR, which is State Department and others, but it's primarily going to be based on commerce regulations. We're going to have that right in Cleveland, so it's going to be an in-person event. But again, we have some virtual events. We also participate in virtual events like this one. So we're more than happy to help in any way that we can. And just to prove that we are local and real, here are some of my colleagues. Michelle Nuafo, Rissa Harris. And I'm here to talk about our particular agency, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that there's lots of folks out there that can help you export. So in Ohio, we have a great Ohio Department of Development. They have an export assistance network. They have folks that are helping you. They have offices also in Cleveland and Columbus and across the state. We can connect you with the folks at Exim Bank. I didn't really put in here about financing and credit insurance, but there are a variety of programs that can help you finance your exports or finance if you need to grow your manufacturing space. The same thing from the U.S. Small Business Administration. There's a wide variety of programs they have just focused on exporting. And then, of course, our friends here from Star USA that can help you with documentation. They put on these great training webinars every month there's a lot of folks that can help you. So I guess if I can leave my formal remarks, I would say, you know, anything you need to do with exporting and connecting with the embassies and consulates around the world, reach out to our team here in Cleveland. At the end of this presentation, if you're in a different city, state, I'm more than happy to get you the contact of your local office. But the bottom line is don't go it alone. Reach out to STAR, reach out to SBA, Exim Bank, State of Ohio, Commercial Service. There's tons, decades of experience that are there to help you. When I did international trade, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just was getting inquiries from trade shows. And someone from Bulgaria wants to buy my equipment. I'm like, sure, okay, why not? Cash in advance and I'll send it to you. That was my whole market intelligence, background check, all that kind of stuff. I made mistakes. I paid the price a few times, but there's no reason to do it by yourself. Come out, work with us, come to different events, network with other companies that are doing exporting. There's just a lot of great infrastructure around the country, but particularly here in Northeast Ohio, there's a lot of great companies as well. And as well as our district export council. I didn't have a slide in here, but we have a group of 33 volunteers, including Mike Easton from Star USA, that are small business leaders, and they're more than willing to help give you their experience, share their knowledge, where they might have messed up or where they've succeeded, what they would say is best practices, all that type of thing. So there's lots of great resources and tools.
I have some questions that were sent in ahead of time, but if anybody comes up with any that you want to ask while we're talking, feel free to add yours. My first question was, has the increase in small package transit increased U.S. small business involvement in exporting?
That's a good question. I think not only the small package type situation, but also the e-commerce platforms. So when people put up, even if they're on Amazon or whatever, they can get buyers from around the world. And I think it's lends itself to a situation where they think, oh, I'm just going to drop it in a small package and not have to worry about it, which probably 99% of the time is not going to come back and bite you. But, not knowing your HS code, not knowing where it was manufactured, not knowing all those type of things has really impacted a lot of really small companies who might be making things on Etsy or whatever. But there are some considerations that I think that need to still be looked at, and compliance issues, things like that. Most people, if you're selling T-shirts or whatever, it's not going to really be an issue. But if it's electronics or you're reselling iPhones or other things like that, I mean, it could get into a compliance situation too. So it's certainly impacted things on the small package side and more the one-to-one, almost consumer to consumer type business.
Mm-hmm. What are the biggest reasons that you have found that small and medium-sized businesses are not involved in exporting?
Two things are, the biggest thing is most small businesses are run by small, like family businesses. And the first thing they're always worried about is, how do I get paid?
Mm-hmm.
And they're nervous. And I think that's one of the things that holds a lot of companies back, is they come in and say, I only want to be paid in advance. And think about, if we had a domestic customer and you said, well, we have to pay only in advance, you're going to probably look for another supplier versus getting 30-day terms or some kind of flexible financing. So that's the biggest thing, is you got a lot of small businesses who are afraid to take risk or risk averse, and naturally so. I mean, when I was a small business owner, we lost $40,000 on a shipment to Korea, and that's a lot of money to a $5 million business. And it hurt. That's what I learned about Exim Bank credit insurance, unfortunately, afterwards. But there are things like that. So I appreciate the question. That I say credit insurance, and those that don't know, is you can get an insurance policy on your foreign receivables, which will pay you back 95% if a customer defaults or goes out of business or falls off the planet or things. So there's lots of different resources like that to take away some of that risk, letters of credit through your bank, all kinds of different options that you can still be client focused or customer focused, but be a little bit flexible. I think the number two reason small companies don't export is they're scared of all the compliance stuff and the paperwork. And they wonder, is it worth it? And we often counsel companies, I'm sure you guys do the same thing. Once you get it all set up, it's not that complicated.
Yep.
But when you're first doing it, you're like, oh my God, like I need to
Yes.
do certificate of origins and HS classifications and all my parts and all my machines or whatever. And I'll never get through it all. So they're like, heck with it until they get a big order. And they're like, oh, maybe it is worth going through it if I get a big enough order. So those are the two that I would say are the most common is, how do I get paid and how do I get my ducks in a row for compliance and all the paperwork documentation requirements? And are we willing to put in that time and investment to get those things done?
Yeah. Thank you. Those are great points. How do you help businesses? I don't know about you, but we see so many businesses that started up, especially the smaller or medium-sized ones, because the people who start them are these amazing creative people who develop solutions to problems or create new things. And they're really, really good at that. But the business part, the marketing part is maybe not their strength. How
Hmm.
do you work with those companies?
Well, I'm sure it's similar to what your organization does. We try and help them put together an export plan where, okay, let's be intentional. And okay, if it's a brand new product, they've only sold domestically, don't go to China, go to Canada, go to, a simpler market, do some market research ahead of time. So you're right. I think it's one of those
Yeah.
things, right? Like
Yes,
keep it
absolutely.
keep it simple for now, right? Like I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs are like, oh, I could sell a bunch of these in China. Yeah, but they may own your technology in a matter of 6 months. So you need to really think about it. And maybe China's the right answer, but let's be intentional about it. So
Right.
we really try and get them to come up with a intentional strategy where, okay, we want to go forward. The other thing I always recommend to those kind of clients too is in the design phase of their product, make it international. So
Mm-hmm.
does it have to be a certain voltage? Does it have to have certain CE markings? Does it have to have, whatever your target market are? It's a lot easier to make those changes when you're developing the product than after you've done it and have to go back and like, oh, wait, for CE, we need to make these adjustments in order to to meet those objectives. So especially startups and newer companies that are always developing new products, I always try and tell them to be intentional about that as well. And then can you make your instruction manual pictograms instead of in 20 different languages?
Smart.
A lot of that kind of stuff will save them a lot of time and money if they do it ahead of time instead of after the fact.
How do you handle it when you are representing multiple companies that do kind of the same thing?
Well, we always keep business proprietary information. We don't tell, even on a webinar like this, I wouldn't tell you which companies in particular we're working with.
Right.
So, and likewise, we do the same thing when we go to overseas posts. But, it's one of those things that most of the time they're not exactly the same. So we can work on them and say we're in a specific industry. If they're all medical device manufacturers, for example, we
Mm-hmm.
can still help multiple companies at a trade show and a medical
Right.
device like Arab Health or something like that without giving away any, you know, competitive advantages or anything along those lines. So we do keep everything close to the vest. We don't share information. We don't share our client lists or anything along those lines either.
Nice. How can customers and companies in other countries get involved?
Okay. So there's a couple different ways. We're only on the export side, of course, but if a company is interested in importing a product from the United States, let's say they're in Mexico or India or wherever, we can have them contact our office in that country and say, okay, I'm in this industry. I'm interested in importing this product from the United States. Can you help me find a supplier? And then what will happen is that post will reach out to our group and say, okay, I've got a company who's interested in importing automobile parts from the United States into Mexico. Here's a list of suppliers, and we can almost do like a reverse gold key situation, like we talked about earlier. We
Oh,
don't have
neat.
big supplier lists per se, but if someone says, I've had it often happen where a company will come and say, again, I'm going to pick Goodyear just because they're a publicly traded big company. But if someone comes to me from Africa and says, I want to distribute Goodyear tires, I can provide that introduction to Goodyear so that they can then sell into Africa, should they so choose. I can't promise a meeting. I can't promise that they'll start selling
Right.
tires, but I can at least provide that introduction. Again, being that we're a US field-based organization, we have contacts with a lot of US
Yeah.
companies. So again, if a company overseas is interested, I'm more than happy to connect them with our embassy or consulate and say, hey, you talk to so-and-so and see if we can't connect you with some US businesses.
Very nice. All right, here are some resources. We will send these out with the slides. We have the USCS website, which Todd also shared. The District Export Council or DEC overview so that you can get kind of a good understanding of what they are because they're very cool and they are a really neat resource. My boss, Michael, also really enjoys it because the overview says what the deck is deck. So he enjoys that pun. And there's also the national listing for the District Export Council. So you can find your specific deck that you want to look at.
And for those of you in Ohio, I'll just add it's Ohio DEC like deck.org. So if you're interested, we also post a lot of our events, including the events like today. So if you're interested in training events and that type of thing, as well as it has a list of all of the deck members in both Northern Ohio and Southern Ohio. So I talked a little bit about experts like Michael that are available. There's, again, people from all types of different organizations. There's international attorneys. There are freight forwarders. So there's lots of different opportunities to connect with any of those. And I'm more than happy to provide an introduction, or you can reach out directly.
And I have, as a non-deck member, I have spoken to a wide variety of the members, and they are all so helpful, so lovely to work with. So it is a really cool organization.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you all so much for watching and asking questions. Todd, thank you so much for joining us. I learned a lot. It was neat. I know that I was joking with you beforehand about how most of the time we work with government agencies who have enforcement as part of their mandate. So as much as they want to see you succeed, they're also there to catch you when you don't. And it's really fun to talk to an agency that's really just there about your success. So
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'll leave with a joke that Michael will like as well, is that we really are from the government and here to help. So the old Reagan joke, but our primary focus is helping you, not trying to catch you at anything or do anything like that. It's about how can we help you grow. So
that's
appreciate the
very wonderful.
opportunity.
Yeah. So we will send out an email in the next few weeks with instructions on how to claim CEUs if you're participating in NCBFAA programs, along with a link to slides and recording. You are more than welcome to reach out to any of us. I know Todd's contact information was a few slides ago. Our contact information is here. And if you send something to us, we can forward it to Todd and his team. And we hope you'll touch base with USCS. They have so many cool programs available, and we were walking through all the members of the team, both in the Cleveland office and the other Ohio locations, and they are all so smart and so kind, and it is just really wonderful to work with any of you. So I hope that you watching will check them out. Have a really good rest of the week.
Thank you so much, everyone.